How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Gav, aka BEYTEK, and today in this video we're going to be assembling or starting to assemble the K24 engine for the RX7. Welcome along to all you new subscribers. Like I say, Gav from Scotland, build cars and shit, and normally put turbos on them and do all the mapping and stuff like that and show it on YouTube. It's all a bit of fun. I don't take myself too seriously. Feel free to get in the comments and call me a wee fanny if you want. I'll take it lightheartedly, as with everything I do. So I've got some time. Like I say, this video might actually be over a few days worth. I've not got an engine stand just now. I need to get off my mate. So today in this video we'll probably be doing some little basic stuff, and well, you guys will probably see through a few days working on it. So what I'm going to do tonight, basically, I've got some spare time, is I'm going to hone the block, and we're probably going to do the O-rings on the block. Yep, O-rings. So as you can see here, I've got the Chris Boy block fill. The head, the deck I should say, is all decked, completely flattened, and inside here, if this thing will zoom in, inside here you can see these little tiny grooves, and they are for holding in this copper wire. This copper wire is for sealing. You know, when the head gasket goes on, the head goes down, and we clamp it down with the big inline pro head studs. These bite into the gasket and just cause really good sealing. The idea is you don't want the head to lift or pass any exhaust gases through, and because I'm going to be running on ethanol and stuff like that, and some seriously, I'd say, high-ish boost numbers, prepping the block for 3 bar of boost if we wanted to go there. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start off and do these O-rings, and I'll show you me putting them in. So O-ring this block and decking it and stuff like that's been an idea of mine for a long time. I got in touch with an old school friend called Stuart Bernardini, and he's got like a machine shop. It's like 5-axis CNC lathes. He's got all the gear. So decided to put both our ideas together, and he actually ended up making a tooling, as in the fly cutter, and experimenting, and we've done some R&D with different heads to make sure that we get the right seat for this wire here. So this is just solid copper wire, and we won't tell you the specs exactly because we're actually going to be doing this if you're wanting your block done, decked, with the head decked, so it's completely flat. I mean, this thing is like 0.0002 of a millimetre, a metre long, so this is completely flat, like so flat. Yeah, we're going to be offering this as a service mainly to folk in the UK, because there isn't really folk around that will do this to your engine. So this will be really hard to show, but I have squared off the end of this copper wire. I'm going to stick it in, and then I'm going to start chapping it around until I get near the end, and then it'll actually give me the size I'm needing. I've just cut this bit just now, which is a bit too long, because you're better to be longer than shorter. And then once I've got it near to the end, I'll snip it, and then I use a file here to make sure that both ends are flat. So when they go down, like this one here, you can see the gap in this one here. Tiny little gap that you can hardly see it. It takes a couple of attempts to do, but that's what I'm after. So it's a lot of filing and stuff like that, but that one's just there. Tiny wee midgy ball hair of a gap. By the time the head's down and that's squished down and stuff, that gap will probably be soaked up. So yeah, so that's the first two done. Just going to go to the next one now. I'm using a nylon hammer. So when I get it close enough, you come down and see it's slightly too big. Slightly too big there, so I just file it down till it's square, and then just finalise it and tap it in. O-ringing is complete. Oh man, it looks so sick. Better in person than it does on this camera, probably. Still need to hone the block, but I'm going to drill the rest of the holes for the head gasket. And I want to show you something about here, because I've had some people say that, oh, these holes are not going to be flowing enough. Let me show you this. So here we have the OEM head gasket, and look at the holes in this. guys, there isn't any. Okay, so I'm actually going to put holes in it. This is a K24 head gasket, though the K21 is slightly different, it has different holes. So I want you to try and think of this in a sort of different perspective. I like everything flowing fast, you know, high pressure, everything's flowing well. But with a coolant system, it's kind of a little bit different. And this is something I learned, but I'd like to pass it on to you guys. The reason you have small holes on the head gasket itself is actually to slow flow down. And if you think about it, the heat from the cylinder walls needs to transfer into the water. So if you have the water rushing past, it doesn't pull the heat out of the cylinder wall. So you actually need the water to slow down enough to let the heat transfer from the cylinder wall, the barrels themselves, into the water and then through into the head and out. So that's the idea of small holes. So it was like something that took me by surprise. Like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I think these were around about 3mm holes that I used, and yeah, that to me is going to flow enough. I don't know if you've seen on Instagram a while back, I'd done like a hose in the block, and it showed actually how much water flows out just for them little holes. So, but if I have overheating issues, you know probably what's causing it. No, that's one thing I'm actually half nervous to see, you know, how it copes with the heat management. So yeah, like I say, send it block anyway, we'll see how it does. But yeah, what I'm going to do now is drill some extra holes in the head gasket. Done. So you can see some of the new holes are actually in a different place. I didn't realise it, but the K24 head gasket is actually different to the K20 head gasket. I just assumed, you know, it would be the same, but it's not, so that's fine. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the hone tool here. I'm going to bash it in. We're going to give these barrels just a bit of a hone. We're going to clean it all out again. We're going to get the piston rings, and we're going to start ringing the block. And we'll go over the specs I'm going to use as and when we go. And as per usual with this, it's not a how-to, it's just how I'm doing it. This is my engine, my one, my prototype. You can do whatever the fuck you want, but I'm going to hone it with this. Just to kind of, you know, you can actually see the original hone marks are still there. If anything, they're a little bit they're not steep enough for my liking. I like around about 45 degrees, which does mean I'm going to go up and doing quite fast. I'll start off slow, and then once I've got the cut I want, I'll start going faster, a few passes to get them grooves in there. And don't go too far down because you start hitting parts of the block you're not supposed to. Right, do not fall over. Fucking expensive camera. It's a shame the bastard won't focus though when it's supposed to. In here I've also used WD-40, folk use different stuff, I just use this because it's light. If I use like engine oil it might, you know, lubricate it a bit too much. And that's what I'll, you know, so I'll go down to see the max I can kind of go, and then I know just basically to stay above that, so. Just giving it a clean. Oh yeah. And then that's it, kind of as clean as I wanted to. I can see the marks, the brown marks at the top are coming away now. So now I slow it down at a step, and I just start giving it fast up and down. Let me show you what it looks like. Like I say here, probably need to give us a clean down, but you can see the hone marks now. The sort of 45 degree I've gone for, quite a drastic angle compared to standard. And also I've got rid of all the brown marks, the glazing, the varnishing inside the barrel. That's all I'm going to do, and I'll do the same for these other three, just so the rings are nice and going to bed into a nice fresh surface. So you can see here, this is the nice fresh hone marks, and this is when it's untouched. You can see down the bottom there as well, there's a step, a very slight step of carbon glazing build up, so that's what we're wanting to get rid of, that brown shite down there. All done. Needs a clean obviously. You you really need to clean out these barrels once you've done the horns, because there's like microscopic bits of you know, grinding stone and steel and stuff like that. So that just turns it into like a lapping paste. And when you're in the car without cleaning it, it just basically glazes up the bores. And if you didn't know, glazed bores causes less compression than bores like this. What I should say though is I probably should have done this before. I probably should have done the O-rings before I'd done that, because the wee tool kicked out, and as you can see here, it nicked one of my copper O-rings. I think I'm fucking flying out at a rate of knots. It snapped itself there. Just fucking... she's a right hoorah tool like. So what we'll do is I'll get a pick and I'll pick out this ring. Not looking forward to that, to be honest. And then we'll just stick in a new one. It's kind of like, you know, I've got loads of this stuff, so we've got plenty spare. Rings now, just when you put your pink paint markers in there, just make sure to drip all over your fucking rings. Oh, gonna hate to clean these bastards up already. That shit doesn't seal too good. So I lost my bit of paper, but here's the Wiseco piston ring get thing, and this is all in inches and stuff, so I'm gonna have to try and change it to, in fact I might just do it in inches. Nah, fuck it. I'll see what my feeler gauge says and we'll go with that. But I'll basically to calculate it out. So basically you need to add your bore size. So our bore size is say 3 inch for instance. It's 3.5 or whatever it is, and you have to multiply that by the size that you're after. So we're going to go for high performance street strip or street moderate turbo. So to save you guys all the calculations and stuff, and because it took me about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes to work this out because I'm not very good at maths, I end up using my phone, I'm not even going to lie. But 86mm divided by 25.4 gives you 3.385 inches. So then you take your 3.385 inches and then you times it by the 0.0050, so it's 50 thou. And that gives you, is that 16 thou? I think that's 5 thou. I think that's 16 thou. I fucking hate this imperial system, but hey, we're going to go with it. We're going to go with it, we'll stick with it. So the top ring, we're going to say is going to be 16 thou. And the bottom ring is going to be 18 thou. You want the second ring to always be looser than the top ring. I think it's to do with blow-by, so the blow-by goes down the way, it doesn't cause a pocket in between the two and cause pre-ignition and all that sort of good shit. So 16 thou and 18 thou, yeah, you could probably say that's 17 thou. Because I'm just going to go with it. I've got these out here, and actually these feeler gauges do inches and millimeters. So if you work in millimeters, 0.16 thou is 0.4 mil, and 0.457 mil on the 18 thou. So yeah, to stick the ring in the block, you've probably seen this a million times. I don't know if you've seen it in my last videos. Put the ring in and then centre it down with an old piston. You just stay, yeah, just to get the ring all level for when we're doing it. And for grinding these down, I don't really want to show you, but I'm going to use the bench grinder because it's fast. It's a lot faster. I've done it heaps of times now and I kind of get a feel for it. But if you guys are going to do it yourselves, like I say, don't do as I do, do as I say. Get yourself a piston ring tool, grinder, whatever you want to use. I'm doing it my way or the highway. So yeah, first ring I've put in there. I've not done it yet, but I've just sort of getting there. Oh my god, this camera is doing my head in. But it's in the seat there. The reason I'm going to put all the rings in is because if you find one that's particularly slack, you can move it around, you know, till you get it where you need it. This thing here has a marker on it saying N for like no chance, and to get the rings in I like to push them in like this and spin them round, because otherwise you can chip stuff and chip the corners. So like I say, just like this, push down and flip round. That gets it in. So first things first, I've tried Yeah, bastard. So as you can see, my wee gaps in here, this thing is not going to focus on what it should be, and I've just made sure that these don't fit any of the gaps, and they don't, and that's the 16th thou, so I just need to open them all up now. Just a wee midge's ball here. So there we have it. We have fitting in there snugly, fitting in there snugly, fitting in there snugly, and fitting in there snugly. 16th thou. Fucking camera. So I don't know if it's just me, but most times it doesn't matter if it's D16, it doesn't matter if it's K20, it doesn't matter if it was 1.8 turbo, it doesn't matter any of the engines I've built, right? The second ring always is bang on. Like, I never have to touch the second rings ever. They're always just, I don't know what it is, they just seem to be bang on. But there's not a lot of information as what to do with the oil rail. So this is what we class as the oil rail. Should say is just the oiling sort of scraper rings. These don't really get clearance to such. You just need to make sure that there is like a gap. I'm sure it's like, as long as it's like minimum, like 0.1 of an inch, a thou or whatever, a 10th thou, which is like fucking nothing, So yeah, it doesn't really matter the size of these. Don't worry about them too much. You don't gap them like you do your piston rings. You just need to make sure that this guy here, this piece here, it's going to be impossible to show you. Hold on. So this guy here, just got to make sure that that butts up against each other and it doesn't like sit on top of it or anything like that. Like that, that's bad. And like that is fine. Just a quick look inside here, you know, and spread it all out to make sure that it doesn't butt up. They should always be slightly smaller than the bore, but it's more just a double check, you know, that something's not happened in the factory where they've made the rings and there was a mistake. So just check them anyway, just chuck them in to make sure you've got plenty clearance. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this block a good clean down, just clean, keep cleaning it, and then I'm going to whip the pistons out. We're going to put the pistons onto the rods and we'll put the rings onto the pistons and we'll get ready for assembling the bottom end. So we've got it upside down now, and now I need to block off the oil jets. Typically you block off these oil squirters when you're going forged pistons, just because the forged pistons themselves are a better material and they can take a little bit more heat. So these for cooling jets for the cast pistons are good if you're going for a cast piston or stock block, but yeah, we can get rid of them now. So I just need to go on the lathe and I'll whip up some wee spacers, because these have little holes in them which feed out to the squirters. So once you do that, obviously you get more oil pressure because you've not got it all leaking out of the wee squirters. So we're on now to the lathe. What I'll do is I've just chuck a bit in here. We'll turn this down to around about, I don't know, 12mm maybe, maybe 12-13mm, and then we'll bore the inside 8mm, and then we'll make off the little pieces that we're going to use for blanks. That looks like it's going to be perfect. There we go, wee spacers made up. I'll just thread lock the ends and I'll stick them into them. So I've cleaned down the surfaces here, I've got the bearings in place, I'll probably stick some oil in here, and then I'm going to lay in the crank. So crank end looking shiny, I've got thrust washers here. Eventually found the bastards after my missus had hidden them away. King bearings I've gone for. The OEM ones though, you'd be fine, you know, they've not worn down at all, especially because I'm DCT gearbox. But I think they're just very slightly thicker maybe. Yeah, we'll fire them in anyway, we've got them, so we might as well use them. And they go in here, either side. And always remember, these guys have to face out the way, face towards the crank with these notches here. Here we go. Oh yeah. Now I need to get fucking eat mains bolts. What I'll do now, we'll give this thing a wee spin. So we're getting creative here when it comes to doing the angles on this. 29 Newton meters all the way around, and then we need to go 56. So we've zeroed out the phone and we're going to wing it around 56 degrees. And that should do. That's how we should do it, broski. So there we have it. She's all torqued up, ready to go. So it feels like butter smooth. Even with I'm using this Lucas assembly lube. I use it with all the engine stuff. It seems to work, but it's thick. You know, it's like a thick goop rather than like a thin oil. So yeah, she's spinning nicely, nice and free. So all torqued up. So the next stage is basically rods and pistons and stuff like that. But I might do that into the next video because this ain't starting to drag on. And also, before I forget, I need to plug up the oil hole. In fact, it's that one there for the K24 because you need to block up this hole. I've already removed the little plug that goes in there with the O-ring, so I'll just put a bolt in that. Mine's is threaded. Some of them aren't threaded, so some people have to tap them. Mine's is. So I'll just chuck a bolt in there, and then that way, when they push all the oil pressure out. But yeah, this is going to do it. So this will be like part 1 of the build. Part 2 will be sticking in the max speed rods, the pistons. I'll be porting the oil pump in that as well. It'll just be good to have it on an engine stand because it's just kind of on the bench just now. And then we can put on the head. We can do the head and all the valves and stuff like that. The valves themselves, I don't know if you've seen, they've got a ceramic coating on them as well. So interested to see how this all turns out. But yeah guys, that's going to do it for this video. I will not keep you long on the next one because I'll probably be doing that tomorrow. So hope you guys stay safe, stay classy, and we'll catch you in the next vid. Cheers.